Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So I just showed a few days ago how to replace your rear drum brakes, and I'm working on the front disc brakes now. So this is it all disassembled. Basically what you're gonna need for this specific car, but in general the steps are the same. What the exact tools you need are generally more of like a socket set or something a little bit different. So this is my 1999 Buick that you guys have seen a lot on the channel, LeSabre Custom. So with this car, to get the lug nuts off, you need a breaker bar and then an impact of some kind. 19mm socket, and then ratchet to get those off. I have a small crowbar, something you can use some large channel lock pliers with something to go up against the inside of the piston there to push that back in, or a tool like this if you have it. Basically it just screws in, and I put something in between this metal plate here and it pushes the piston back in the caliper for when you're reassembling. So on this specific car, I stuck my hand back there just after taking the wheel off a few days ago, just to see, what I might need, and found that instead of bolts, you need a hex bit. Very large one, actually. It's a 3/8 inch. So I went out and got this massive Allen wrench. That's basically all I could use, because I didn't want to go out and get a large hex bit set. And then I just used the other side of my floor jack after I jacked my car up, which, by the way, I have a video on how to do that safely if you want to go check that out. I'll link that in the description or in this video somewhere. You just stick this in there, give it a good push at the right angle, and it comes up pretty smoothly. And then, oddly enough, with this car, you don't need to take off the bracket. If you're working on your car and you're seeing that you have maybe 4 bolts instead of 2, chances are, well, not chances are, I have another car that has that, you will also have a caliper bracket that will come off. So it's really not that much more. Usually the bolts are like right next to the slide pins here that actually allow the caliper to go back and forth. But yeah, then other than that, if you have a stuck disc, give it a few reps with a mallet of some kind, and just kind of work it back and forth. Put your hands on both sides, up and down. Just knock that out. And occasionally, mine doesn't, but I have had a car before where it had a screw like in between the threads here, right at the lug nut holes. Just a tiny little screw, and that's all that held it on after the lug nut. So just some extra protection there, but very annoying until you realize what it is. So once you get that off, yeah, like I said, make sure you go ahead and put this back in. These are my brake pads. Pay attention, pay close attention when you're taking it apart, where your brake pads went. That sounds really stupid, but honestly, like, I didn't know that I had 2 different size brake pads. So obviously I'm gonna want to remember the larger one went on the outside here. So when I reinstall my new ones, I don't have super squeaky brakes. And then when you do put in your new brake pads, because it's very quick and easy, it's the opposite of removal. You push your piston back in, do some cleaning. Honestly, I would spray it all down with some brake clean when you have it out or down like this, just all disassembled. Take a wire brush to any mating surfaces in here where the brake pad is gonna sit, so that you don't get any squealing. Clean some of that rust off, and then put some brake lubricant anywhere that there's going to be metal on metal. Just do not put any lubricant on, obviously, the brake pad itself. Maybe put some here on the back, because you can see with this really bad brake pad, the circle where the piston was hitting it. And then maybe even just put a slight dab of lubricant around the piston. Nothing inside, nothing, don't coat it, don't put anything on the boot or anything. And then make sure when you put these back in, whether you have slide pins or well, they're going to be slide pins, but whether they look like this or just they have a bolt on the end, make sure that you put some brake grease along here, or some silicone grease. I'm not exactly sure which one is best for this application, but you want to make sure that it slides back and forth. Otherwise, you can put this all back together and your caliper can just seize and not move, strictly because your guide pins, like, you already have it all disassembled, may as well just put a little bit on and then slide it back and forth a few times. And otherwise, yeah, put your new brake pads back in here once they're all cleaned up and lubed up. Just make sure that they're fitting correctly, and then very carefully get your new disc on here. Very carefully slide this back over, and then, yeah, pretty much just put the bolts back in and hand tighten them obviously first, and then tighten them down to spec once you have it where you want it. Quick tip otherwise though, clean this hub really well, and then if you have some anti-seize, I would highly recommend just putting a little bit in between each one, just rubbing it around with your finger, with your glove. Definitely help. Don't put it on the rotor itself, it will get on there, but it definitely helps. All this caked on rust, that is normally why people have a tough time getting their brake rotor off, is it's just stuck to the hub. And so you can hit it with a hammer a few times, fine, but mine slid off just fine. Very thankful for that, but then I'm just gonna, to avoid any hassle in the future, put a little bit in there. Try not to get on the threads here. You don't want, you want your lug nuts when you put them back on to be super tight. You don't want them to be loose or anything. And then one more quick tip. When you are pushing, do it pretty slowly. I would do it slowly if I was you, so you don't break anything or risk cracking anything. You want to make sure that the piston is going back in straight when it's going back in, but then when it's pushing back in, you're putting negative pressure on the line. There's brake fluid in this line, everything. It's in here, right here. I don't want to bleed the brake, so I didn't do anything with the brake lines. As soon as I started compressing the other side, before I did this side, came up here, and my brake fluid was overflowing. I just heard it dripping down below and thought, oh crap, I like broke a brake line or something, and that would have been a nightmare. So put that back on before I forget. The tech, I got my brake lines replaced not that long ago, maybe a month or two ago, just part of them, because a brake line blew. Nice and rusted up here in the Midwest, and you can see where that fluid right here is moving. That's where you want it to be. It's at the max, it's at the max line right there. When I opened this up, it was topped off to the very tippy top. So as soon as I started compressing this just a little bit that I had to, it pushed the fluid back in and up out the reservoir. It started leaking everywhere. Brake fluid is extremely corrosive, so as soon as I saw that, you want to get down there and start wiping down anywhere that it dripped, because it will start eating away at stuff. So just a heads up there. Sorry for being long-winded. You guys have any questions, let me know on this car or any other car for that matter. Tips, if you're stuck anywhere, I've been there, so just let me know.